are on. So folks, this episode of On the Board, I'm literally showing you what's on the board here. It's kind of funny. I've got all of these on the go, and I've been kind of rotating myself around the work. I'm now starting to do concentrate on works kind of like the same way I read, you know, anywhere from 3 to 6 books at a time. Bookmarking, coming back, and I'm not kidding, I'm sick. Anyway, coming back and tickling them up. This was an old technique that I started using around 2006, where I'd start several paintings, and oftentimes what I'd have is a wet palette of this paint, and I'd take that wet paint that was left over from the work that I was in and rough out some sort of layout for the next painting, and I'd just go like that. It helped me preserve materials. This is with painting, that is, but it also helped me produce more things at a time. But anyway, what's going on here is we've got some original work and a couple of recreations. The couple of recreations are here. This one, this lateral, what is that, 11 by 17? And this 11 by 17. Actually, this is a bit bigger. These two recreations, I'll get into it and I'll explain to it, but I want to get into something else before that. But while we're here looking at things, so we got 2 recreations, and we've got 1, 2, 3. Oh, sorry, that's 3 recreations. There's this one here in the bottom, and yeah, so that's 3 recreations and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 original works there. Okay, this one is complete and it's ready for copying and stuff. We'll get into that too. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with, I don't know, the curriculum I've taken up, whatever you want to call it, I've basically been pulling out a lot of old drawings from the slush piles, from some of them decades ago, and bringing up these rough sketches into full-blown, you know, pictures. Sometimes it's a matter of adding background, sometimes it's a matter of simply rendering the figure complete, etc., etc. There's a few things going on here, and what I'll do is I'll show you those original drawings and show you what's actually on this board. I'm not going to give you a close-up here because I want to save that for the video when the works are finished and I can present them properly. But before I get into all that, I want to touch upon something quite different, actually. Yeah, now what you're looking at here is a picture. It's pen and ink on some hardtack paper from about 2008, I believe it was. And what this represents is like a segue into what I want to talk about. I think it was a period between, you know, I like to say, where it really got off to a start was around 2005, and that extended into about end of 2008, where things in the work were changing. There were additions, to say the least, to my creative process. So yeah, I often mention the slush pile of drawings of figures and comic book art and stuff that I pulled up to, you know, bring into the light of the present. But there's also an abundance of slush piled work of random drawings here. Now, a lot of these are in, you know, protective plastic for you know, filing in binders and stuff. But anyway, a lot of these are cut out and pasted now. I try to categorize them due to year and stuff, and some of them are all directly on the page. But as you can see, this is different than figure work. The forms started breaking up, and these random shapes and patterns, like you know, this stuff here that I'm showing you right now is from about 2005. Okay, And something was definitely going on. You know, something was definitely changing. We'll put it that way, right? You know? And a lot of this had to do with a new attention I was paying to painting endeavors, you know? Canvas. I was using oil at the time. Not so much an acrylic guy, but a lot of these images, now that I think about it, I would have been better off with acrylic, because to render these kind of shapes and forms and stuff, it would have made sense. This came from the meeting of a painter friend who also came to work at the same place, and we, you know, bounce ideas off of each other's heads and that sort of thing. But it was definitely changing, and when I started exploring this, I mean, like I can say to you, oh, you know, I can explain these things and that, but I can't really. What I can tell you is that a lot of it was done for just pure pleasure on my part, and I realize that this isn't not something for everybody. What I can also say about it, when you start feeling the word abstract creeping in, well, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't even know how I feel about the titles, but I'll tell you, this was not to be mistaken for like a Jackson Pollock kind of expression or a experience, because, you know, we're not talking about some random spontaneous splattering on canvas, which, don't get me wrong, I love that stuff too, and that's all well and good, but this was different. These were about definite images I was being bombarded by, one after another, you understand? Each frame you're seeing here is a random image I was hit by that I felt compelled to capture with a pen in hand, right there on the spot. That's as spontaneous as it got, you see? And the idea behind that was to, you know, eventually render these images onto the canvas. That's the idea. It was a crazy time, I'm telling you, intense time, both socially and creative-wise. I mean, I can't even explain. A lot of people would like to attribute this to recreational substance issues and stuff like that. No. I assure you, I'm quite capable of being quite insane without any of those things. I don't know how else to put it. I don't know if I should even put it, because it just seems no matter what you do, there's going to be misunderstandings. The best you can do is get up there and express what you believe and what you felt was happening at the time, and, you know, just be honest with yourself and with the people you're showing these things to. But all that being said, you know, remember, folks, art, although an image is ultimately a lie, you know, the closest you can get to it not being a lie is photography. Like, but I'm not getting into that. So yeah, it just went on like this. Like this stuff just goes on and on and on. I can go on for days. Sorry about the light shining through there. Like, just, you know, bombarded with imagery, one after another. It just, sometimes the erotic, sorry about that. But, you know, one after another, non-stop. It was a bit insane, you know, or whatever that means, okay? But these things were happening, and the compulsion to get them down was tremendous. It was a need. And I don't need to explain to some of you what that actually means, you know, rendering things, you know, kind of in a way where it just takes over, where it becomes the most important thing, yada, yada, yada. But it just goes and goes and goes and goes one after another. But what's the point of all this imagery? Well, on it, like, what? I mean, what? Just, whoa. And so it went. Now, sometimes the forms would come across as stricter, right? And you could actually make things out from them. So on and so forth. Like, I probably, sometimes I think I probably shouldn't be showing all these. I should be just making the actual, well, these are the original sketches, and I thought it would be important to put some of this stuff up. Like, don't, I mean, the the worst question you could probably ask would be, what is that? I don't know, don't I? Yeah, sometimes I know. And even if I did know, maybe I wouldn't tell you. I don't know. But it's important to note that even during this time, I was still, continuing with my studies on the human form and, drawing, beautiful women and rendering muscular anatomy on the males and that sort of thing. So this is still from that period of time, right? During all this. Same thing. Same time period. Same interest, but something was definitely happening. Kind of suitable. The train coming in in the background. Yeah, train wreck on the way. Anyway, actually, I think I'll keep that in the background. The train coming in. Now, here's an example from that time as well. Oh, wait. Show you what's... Okay. Here's an example of that time. Right? Here we go. But these ones, actually, you can see they're a little bit tighter. It's just I think it's a Sharpie or whatever. They're a little bit tighter, a little bit more defined. But the imagery is still just as spontaneous, like crazy images. Capture them, get them down. The idea is bring them home, and perhaps you can get some of this stuff, onto the canvas. And in fact, that's what I started to do. Like this one, for example, here. Actually, I drew it up. Do I have that? Yeah, I know I do. I just saw it. Hold on. Yeah. So, there it would be, right? Blown up into the actual size. Yeah. I mean, yeah, and this one's also in plastic sheet. It's a bit bigger than, I think, a bit bigger than normal typesetter or whatever you call it. But sorry about the reflections, folks. But yeah, as you can see, like you could bring them into reality. Which brings me around to the point before I get into what's on. Yeah. And here's an example from the slush pile files, if you want to call them that. What the heck? Anyway, this one here, actually, in April, I went ahead and decided, I'm going to do this, but I got myself some more acrylic paints for the actual colors that I wanted to use, and decided to bring this one up. And so there it was. Brought it up. And there you go. Bob's your uncle. As I said, like these kind of works, comic book artists and those going for realism aren't going to really understand. But you have to understand that the painter in me, when it comes to these sort of things, like this is just going for pure pleasure. Not to say that I don't get an extreme amount of pleasure from rendering realistic work. I do, of course. That's my thing. But painting, I don't know. There's something about painting that opens up other avenues of creativity. And it's not, this isn't something that I'm throwing out there to appeal to others. Okay? Not so much. I'm putting it out there in the event that if someone likes it, that's great. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to describe two things: a period in which exploration after coming out of the studies of anatomy and classical illustration, self-taught, those things, once you leave those things behind, new avenues can often open up to you. I suppose it depends on what's going on. I suppose it depends on who you meet, that sort of thing. But I'll tell you, once the floodgate opened, it just didn't stop, and there were more and more images like that. And when it came to that stuff, look, this could go on for hours. These images, you know, it just flowed. I mean, one after another.